Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes. For those keeping count, this is episode 271, and my next guest is going to teach us how to get some of that hidden gold that we're forgetting about in our business, and also help us break free from those plateaus and help us get unstuck and move forward and be more profitable in our business. So I want to welcome Craig Valine to the podcast, and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are both old GKIC members, and I've been following Dan Kennedy for good 20 years, probably more, because I think I met him in Phoenix, but I think it was either 1998 or 2000. So um, at least 25 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's but I didn't join GKIC until I think 2009, 2010.
Right.
So it was just one of those. But a lot of people that are listening to this may not know who Dan Kennedy is, may not know who or what uh Glazer Kennedy Inner Circle, the GKIC, meant to a lot of marketers. But for us it was that thing that kind of got us all embracing marketing in a better way.
Yeah.
And but you've been helping entrepreneurs for a long time get
Mm.
unstuck. And I know off air I talked to you about even my evolution through business. And sometimes I felt stuck or stalled or even stagnant, but I've learned to evolve. I learned to embrace the things that I think will help my business grow to the next level. But I also said that there's a lot of entrepreneurs who stay in that same position over and over and over again. They don't learn to break free,
Right.
and I don't think they well, I know some of them will. When a recession hits, the first thing they pull is their marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. The evolution of that part of the business came. I got exposed to Jay Abraham at a very young age.
Hmm.
um, I did a conference call for Tony Robbins, and Jay Abraham was on that call seeking testimonials from people whose lives had been affected by Tony, and I was caller number two. So as a gift, they sent us out that infamous book, or the famous book, I guess. I don't know if it's infamous or famous. Uh, the Mr. X book. I don't know if you're familiar with that,
I,
but
I
it was
am familiar with the book. I don't have it.
yeah, it was. For me, it was just pure gold,
Mhm.
and I had gone through it, and I learned the concept of marketing leverage and hidden marketing assets, and so um, I had always been an entrepreneur since a young age. In fact, I found Dan Kennedy about 30 years ago. 30 years ago, this time of the year. Um, but the marketing leverage aspect really made sense to me. It's like, how can I get a better result for the same time, money, and effort I'm already spending? And everybody I came across was, I have no money for marketing, so I can't really, do anything new or anything like that. And I said, well, let's look at what you already got. So a friend of mine had his father had a bike shop, and they were doing really bad. And my friend said, "Hey, you're pretty good with this marketing stuff. Can you kind of come in and just we'll sit around, we'll get lunch, we'll sit in the back of the store and just see what's happening." And sure enough, father and son come in the door. The father says hello, doesn't ask him any other questions. They look around and then they walk out. And I said, "Why didn't you stop them and ask them what they were looking for?" He goes, "Well, if they knew what they were looking for, they were to come to me." And I said, "No." I said, "Number one, you should engage them and welcome them to the store, but maybe they don't see the one that you actually have in the store, or maybe they don't know that you can get it if they really want it."
Mhm.
So it was silly little thing like just engaging the prospect when they walk in the store and finding out what it is they're looking for. Did they even know what they're looking for? And how can I help them find it? So that concept of marketing leverage I mean, that's a hard that's both marketing leverage and a hidden asset. The hidden asset is let's engage our customers. The leverage part was let's dig deeper to find out what they truly want and help them get it.
Mhm.
And so my friend, that turned the bike shop around, and sure enough, he goes, "Oh, you should go be a marketing consultant. You should go help other businesses." And so I didn't. I love that idea, but I didn't know how to be a marketing consultant, and I struggled for years. I took on lots of jobs or assignments that were out of my realm of expertise just to pay the bills because I, met my wife and she's like, how much money do you make? What are you doing? I'm like,
Yeah.
so it was anything to pay the gas or pay
Well,
the
let's
rent or
talk about
whatever.
that because, there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that, in fact, I just got a connection request from somebody on LinkedIn. And it starts out, "I see you breathe oxygen just like me." What? No, I don't want that as a connection. I
Right,
don't want, and I think that's the problem is that when you're a starving entrepreneur, you take on every client that comes to you because you want to pay the bills.
right.
And then it gets to the point where, okay, this isn't working. And for me, going back, 20 years when I had the cleaning business, when I first started, my slogan was, "We clean your carpet, not your wallet." I
Mm,
wanted all these clients to come to me because I was the cheaper guy.
right.
But what I discovered was I got the worst clients. It took twice as long to clean for them. They complained about everything, and I thought, I can't continue to do this.
Right.
This is not only hurting me, but hurting my family. I don't have enough money to buy equipment. I don't have enough money to advertise. And when I raised my prices, there was like a giant universal shift. I
Yeah.
started getting better clients. They didn't complain anymore, and it was just I thought, wow, this is just awesome. And then I started getting very particular about the clients I wanted to serve. Okay, no more city clients because I can't find parking. They had to have they had to have a $250,000 house. They had to do this, and the moment I started getting very particular, our sales jumped. I bought all kinds of equipment, start taking vacations, but it was like, why are people still the way they are? Hey, I want to attract people that breathe oxygen.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that I have this process where, the best buyer, who's my best buyer? And, I was on an interview with Jim Palmer, who we both know.
Hmm.
And Jim says, so who do you help, Craig? And I said, already successful people,
Hmm.
people already making money, people already doing marketing, people already doing a certain level of business. Because I don't have to teach them. I don't have to teach them to whip out their credit card. Number one, to pay me. Oh, but the other thing is I don't have to whip out the credit card to teach them that they need to be advertising, teach them all these fun. That's for startups. That's for new people. And there's no problem. I'm willing to help them, but not for money. That's something that I'll do just because I want to help someone. But if I'm looking for a paying client, I have to have a clear picture of who that is so that I can speak the language and attract them in everything that I do.
Hmm.
And so I decided that the person that I love to work with was someone that already I had as a client, and I had to find more of them.
Hmm.
The person who gets excited in the morning to get up and do what they do every day, the person who has dreams of success, the person who's already generating at least mid six figures in their business and is, just hit that bump in the road where they can't get any farther. It's like, well, let's see what's doing, let's see what's in the way. It's like going to the mechanic, right? I was watching your video with Dan Cricks the other day.
Hmm.
And it's like, just by asking a question, it's like, what else can we help you with today? Or what else have you been doing lately that might have caused this little bump in the road? Or what haven't you been doing lately that has caused this little bump in the road? You find out a lot more about that customer and whether or not they're a right fit for you.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, it's and sometimes it's something that we learn because we get this disgusted about the success or the lack of success we've had in the past. For me, it took a couple years to realize that, and meeting Dan Kennedy, meeting Joe Polish, meeting, I even met Tony Robbins in 20 or 2000.
Yeah.
And, so meeting some of these people helped change my mindset and say, I want that success too, but how do I get to that?
Yeah.
And so we start growing our business through marketing, but there's always that plateau, you know,
Yeah.
and so it's getting to that next level, and I think that's where a lot of people stay stagnant. They get to that plateau. They feel great. They feel like, well, do I want to grow? Do I want to stay where I'm at? They
Right.
just get comfortable and they're like, I think I just stay here. But no, you gotta grow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really a certain level of mindset, and it's a very small percentage of entrepreneurs who say, "I'm not settling for this. I'm not happy here. I have a goal of, let's say, $1 million for this year, and I'm stuck at 500,000. What the heck?"
Mhm.
You know, it could be operations wise, maybe they have too many expenses. Maybe that's something certainly worth looking at. But from a marketing perspective, I look at their sales process, their best sales process, and see what are you generating from that already. So I mean, as simple as Rob is that they have no upsell,
Right.
they have no follow up. They have no bump. It could be as simple as that. If they say, "Hey, we're at 500,000. We want to get to 1 million," it's like, okay, number one, let's see your sales process. Number two, what are you offering as a bump? Number three, what are you offering as a upsell? But the other thing is, how often are you making offers?
Mhm.
Sometimes people just do it during the holidays, special reasons, whatever. But you know, you should be making offers all the time to your list.
Yeah,
Uh,
and in fact, while we're recording this, it's right after, Thanksgiving. It's, the 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, and I noticed that right at Thanksgiving, right at, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I got all these emails from people I haven't communicated with in over, years.
right,
And it just seems like, well, why are you only sending me an email, when you want a sale? Or why don't you sending me an email throughout the year? Maybe
right.
it would increase the chances of me coming into your establishment to buy something, but sending me an email once a year, what I'm gonna do is just delete, unsubscribe, and just
Yeah,
it just turns me off. I want to communicate with you throughout the year, but you just
right. I would say, that you had mentioned pieces of gold within a business, and I believe there's five pieces of gold in a business. And number one is the list you have and the relationship you have with that list.
mhm,
So the number one thing that I've done over the last 30 years, but really it's been more since I got involved with GKIC that I email, because that was around time email got popular, was I have emailed either every day or several times a week
mhm,
and stayed in touch with them. And it's never just transactional. It is always like, here's a little story that relates to what I'm about to tell you and what I'm going to offer you. And so I use my family, I use my son. My son is affectionately known as Mini Me, college boy, the college graduate, and now the homebody. Now he lives at home, and but I've adjusted him and I go formerly Mini Me, formerly college boy, formerly the college graduate. But I have people who I haven't seen in a while personally, but
mm,
they still get my emails every day and they go, "How's Mini Me doing? And they tell me he's graduated college. No way. I remember when he was just this big. The relationship that I have with that list is outstanding. And I didn't even, I mean, I meant to do it, but I had no idea what it would do. And
right,
so when I put an offer out there, and because there's offers embedded, not powering offers, but it's like, hey, by the way, if you'd like to check out more about this thing, go here and check it out. But it's the stories that connect with people. It's the relationship that I built over a period of time that really has sustained my business. And that's one thing that I ask, my prospective clients when I'm meeting with them is like, how often do you email your list?
mhm,
How often, do you have a list? Most of them have a list, but they've never communicated. I don't want to be a burden. Why are you in business? They
mhm,
opted in because they saw some value or they need something specific from you. Build the relationship over time with them. Let them know that you're there and you won't be burdening them. Some will, some won't. Some will leave, some won't. Stay with the ones that will.
yeah, and one of the biggest things that I used to do, especially in my cleaning business, my crew were not salespeople. my crew would go out there, they were just trained to clean. So trying to get them to do upsells was very hard. So what I would do is I would pre-sell the upsell. I
Right.
would, if I knew the client wasn't scheduled for a week out, I would send them a letter. Hey, while my technician is there, here's some coupons that you can take advantage of for additional services that you're not having, that you didn't consider before. So when the technician shows up, the person's already kind of, inclined to ask, hey, do you have time to do this? So now my technicians were like, oh yeah, because if they're getting paid commission, you know, now they're gonna sell more.
That's
But
awesome.
it just you have to train the customer to ask.
Right.
And sometimes, if our staff isn't going to ask because whatever they're shy, they're just not feeling good that day. If the customer asks
Yeah.
because you train them to, the staff is going to take it the next step further.
And that's brilliant. I mean, that's, it's so simple in concept, but it's brilliant because most people don't do that.
Mhm.
The simple things are the ones that are most overlooked. And that's where the leverage part comes in. It's like, hey, you're already doing this. How can we get a better result from the same effort? Your crew was already in front of the customer. What can we do before they even get there to make it easier for them to, just write the order and take the coupon,
Yeah,
make the
yeah.
sale.
So the average upsell was around $100.
Yeah,
But the time involved for the technician to do the extra work might have been 40 minutes,
right.
you know, and you do 5 of those a day, you know, the technician's making, extra money. But, you know, every customer, or not every customer, every company can do that
Yeah,
now because we have technology. We can text people, we can email them, we can send them a message through, WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever, and we can program a lot of this stuff that it's just automatic.
yeah,
My thing is I like to take the automation out to make sure that you put more humanity in.
right.
There are ways now that we can train customers to ask for the upsell, and so it doesn't feel like we're trying to pressure them into something. The customer's already just asking for it.
Yeah, you know what? I used to run the live events for the GKIC local chapter. I did it under GKIC's name for a while, and then they got a new CEO who I didn't like, so I left. But I still ran it under my own company name. But one of the big successful foundations of those meetings is making the member the star,
Mhm,
letting them get up and share what their wins, whatever it may be for them. Um, letting them shine in some way, shape, or form, so they feel like I feel important here.
mhm,
So one of the things that I used to do was say, I pre-sold my people as well. It's like, every my most successful members are part of my mastermind, and that usually happens in about 3 months being the general member. And then I would have one of the masterminds come up and say, "Hey, you told us a story about how you did this at the last meeting. Tell us about that." And so I'd have that testimonial as well, and someone just so passionate and so happy and so glad that he's part of it, that it just, the next conversation I'm getting, hey, can I get in before 3 months? Well, I don't know if you got my style of marketing done yet. Hold on, you'll get there, you know. But they keep on asking and they keep on hearing the stories and they're begging to be part of that group.
mhm.
And that was a lot of my success. That's part of the relationship, making them feel important, making them feel like you're really there for them and you encourage their success. But hey, just one step at a time. We'll get there. I promise we'll get there.
Yeah, it's, and I think testimonials, and we know this. I mean, we've used testimonials in all of our marketing over the years, but there are still a lot of people who fail to do so. I mean, the bicycle shop that you talked about. Anytime someone comes in with a purchase, get them to give a testimonial, a video testimonial. We have these cameras. Why
Yeah.
are we getting video testimonials? But
Yeah.
you know, one of the things I try to strive, or not strive, but I try to guide my clients away from using is Google and
Yeah.
Facebook reviews. And I know that that's the big thing now. Hey, you got to get on there. You got to do this. You got to collect your own testimonials,
Right.
collect your own reviews, get clients to send you videos directly because
Yeah.
you control that. You can
Right.
share that wherever. Google, in their infinite wisdom, seems to only like negative reviews, and they're allowing anybody that breathes
Right.
leave testimonials against you when they're not even your client.
Right.
So the biggest thing I would encourage everybody to do is ask your clients, your
Yeah.
customers for reviews and have them send them directly to you. So you can put them on your website, you can put them on your social, wherever you want to put
Yeah. I encouraged like I work with a lot of dentists. I kind of fell into that dental world because I had a star student, um, Dr. Brian Berg, who was I would always write to Dan. Dan would want the IBAs to write in and tell them about their people who are applying GKIC marketing to the stuff, and I always wrote. And then Brian would send in his examples to Dan and Bill, and they just loved him. But I attract a lot of dentists, and I say all you have to do. I said, while they're still in your chair and saying, "Do you love your smile? Do you love the work we did? Was it pain free? Was it everything great? You know what? You know what would really help another patient who's kind of on the fence? Take out the phone and just kind of tell us that story again. And one out of easily 30 or 40 would do that.
them.
The rest are relying on the software and they're relying on the software that says, hey, send this to Google, send this to Yelp, send this to
Right.
Facebook reviews. And they're going, Craig, they're not doing it after they leave the office. And I said, that's why I said pull out the phone while they're in the moment. While
Mhm.
they're in the moment, ask them, get them, when they're in a peak state, grab them before they leave the office, before they leave the chair, preferably, but before they leave the office, and say it might help another person who's on the fence about restoring their smile,
Yeah.
something to that effect. And, some get it, some don't. Now, one of my periodontists has over 1,000 reviews going using that method.
Mhm.
His peer has about 20
Yeah.
over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, why is one more successful than the other? Well, one is willing to do what the other isn't willing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just had my car serviced and not serviced in oil, but they had to restore the back trunk. We got rear-ended. So we pick up the car and they give us a whole list of things that was repaired and it was great. The insurance take care of it. And then they have this card that they want us to fill out. Hey, how was your experience? Tell us everything. And I'm thinking to myself, how many people are actually filling that card out?
Right.
How many people will fill that card out and mail it back to them?
Yeah.
And so I called them up, about a week later. I said, you gave me a lot of information and I looked through some of it. And I noticed this card. Just let I mean, how many people send this back? And they said, hardly any. I'm like, well, why do you give it to
Right.
you know, why don't you just get their like you said, in the moment
In the moment.
and they don't do it.
If you make your customers work too hard, they're gonna resent it and they're gonna
Mhm.
say no. I just got an email the other day from some app that I'm using, and it says, "Would you take one moment to answer a few questions about your experience with this software?" And I said, "Yes, I will." Then it took me down 10 pages, and I'm like, "When is this gonna end?" And I said, "Forget it."
Yeah. And then you're like, okay, I just wasted 20 minutes on this.
Yeah.
And then it
I
said
don't
one
have to
more.
1 or 2 questions? Yes, absolutely, but not 10 pages.
Yeah. It's we I think that we as marketers sometimes complicate the steps that we take to get customers to say yes or to take action. It shouldn't be that way,
Yeah.
you know. Um, I see so many things on Facebook from people posting stuff, and they've made it so hard for customers to jump through hoops to and I'm thinking, just make it easy.
Right.
My whole philosophy has always been make it easy, keep
Yeah,
it simple.
yeah,
And we I think we get distracted by shiny objects and oh wow, look, it's that great funnel system that will automate everything and make our lives happier.
right.
And then the funnel breaks and you're ready to have you know, a heart
Yeah.
attack. It just no, don't. Mm-mm.
You know, the Dan Kennedy says, "Inspect what you expect." So you kind of gotta have to go through the processes every once in a while to make sure that nothing's broken. Now, I went through last night. I was updating one of my workflows. I use Rainmaker AI, Frank Kern's high level version,
Mhm.
and the workflow had duplicated instead of changed the message on the second one. I know I changed it because I have a copy of the email that went out, but somehow a glitch in their update or whatever changed the emails to be exactly the same wording. And I'm like, that's not acceptable. Because if I was going to give you a website today, I want to make sure that it's working, and it wasn't. And I'm like, darn. And I looked at what I updated it last, and it was August. So it's like the people that have been coming through that through August, you know, and I'm pretty good at staying on top of these things, but the updates and everything changed everything. So,
Yeah,
just inspect what you expect. If you
right.
expect something to work, that includes your employees, your systems, your automations, everything. Go through those at least once a month, if not more.
Yeah.
But
But
if you expect it
also,
more,
and I like to, as a lot of people who have read my Rob versus books, you know, I keep people on the phone for a reason, or I try to make sure that that chat goes on for a while. I'm very sarcastic, but I want to try to, I'm not trying to waste their time.
right?
I want them to get to the point.
Yeah,
Okay. But I think we as entrepreneurs, we keep people on the phone too long
yeah,
and not get to the right information.
right.
And so I had a client call me up and say, Rob, we're getting a lot of undesirables contacting us. And I said, okay, let's take a look at everything.
Mm,
And so I went through their phone log. I went through, how they're answering the phones. I went through, and they just go through, I guess, a whole series of questions. And they're keeping people on the phone on average of 10 minutes to realize they're not a right fit.
yeah,
And I'm thinking, okay, within 1 minute, you can discover if that is the right fit with a
right.
few asked questions. So they're collecting all the people's information up front to discover after they've asked the questions that they're not a right fit. Why don't you reverse that? Ask one or two questions, then, if they're a right fit, get all their other. And
Yeah,
they're like, no, we have to collect their information. I said, why? What are you going to
yeah,
do with that information if they're not a right fit? Well, we
right.
don't, we just keep it in our system in case they call back.
Ay, ay, ay.
Oh, just don't waste their time.
Yeah. You know, that's the one thing that I do. I ask a few quick questions, like, "Tell me about your sales process." If they don't have if they're random instead of strategic or thoughtful, then I'm like, "You know what? I have someone else I can refer you to. They'll be very good for you. It's not
Mhm.
gonna work. Tell me about your income. How much did you make last year? Tell me about what marketing methods currently work for your business." Yeah, that sort of thing. But I can know right in the first few minutes.
Mhm.
It's like, and if it's not, I have a list of people that I will refer them to that will that they'll feel like they're getting attention but I'm not the guy who's going to help them, at least not from a paid perspective, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's just like you going back to your bicycle shop story is asking those right questions,
yeah,
and you can change that perspective of the customer, whether or not they're going to leave the door, leave the shop or buy from you. You didn't ask them what their name, address, and phone number was as soon as they walked in the door. You asked them a question
right,
with phone calls. You know,
right,
if you can qualify the customer, great. Get their information. If not, kick them to. I'm not saying kick them to the curb, but get them out so that you can
right.
get the next phone call. But when your sales staff is going through the process the wrong way, at the end of the day, your sales staff is going to be upset. They're going to take it out on you. They're going to say the marketing is not working.
Right.
It is working. It's just right now you're attracting the wrong type because you don't know how to pre-qualify.
Right. You know, I've heard it said, there's whale bait versus minnow bait. And so I'm looking to attract the whales using whale bait. And, if I attract minnows, it's my own damn fault because I'm speaking like, a whale doesn't want to know 6 ways on how to use your email, or 6 weeks, 6 steps to setting up your email account or something to that effect. You're not speaking beginner language to a whale. You're speaking like, how do you, if you're stuck at $500,000, here's how to get to the next million, that sort of thing. But language is everything in targeting. Number one, being clear on who you want to do business with, and say, what do I have to ask to make sure that that's them?
Mhm.
When they call on the phone or before they opt in, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. When if you go to my LinkedIn or even my website, you'll see that a lot of my clients are lawyers, doctors, and high level entrepreneurs. High level means that you've been in business for a long time.
Right.
You already have systems established. All we need to do is come in there and improve them. It doesn't say I work with startups. It doesn't say that, if you've been in business less than a year that I'm going to help you. I just find that that time is very exhausting to try to get them to a level where all these others have already established themselves.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I understand because we were both startups at one time and we needed the help, but I had to discover all this on my own. Same with you.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't want to help the next generation, but this is why I write books so that people can go in and say, Rob, I can't afford you, but I can
Right.
afford a $20 book. Or, you buy it on Kindle, it's half the price. Fine, buy the book. It's going to
Right.
help you.
Right. I call myself the former struggling consultant. And because it took me a lot of years and a lot of money to figure out how to do this thing I call consulting or coaching or whatever. And, my son right now, he just graduated from University of San Diego with a marketing degree. He does not want to go into marketing, but he wants to do gigs. He wants to do freelancing. And
Mhm.
so the number one thing I said was, I have a few things that I learned along the way from failure to success in consulting. Would you like to know what they are? And he goes, yeah, I'll come if I have questions. I'm like, okay, so you want to make all those mistakes before you get to me when I've just revealed that I made the same mistakes you did, and so fortunately, his mother says, go talk to your dad. And one of the things he'd started doing work without the proposal, without the money down, the money conversation down. And I said, it's okay to give away a freebie if that's part of your plan, if that's part of the process, but don't start the work and then not get paid for it. And so the point being is that we learn lessons along the way. And part of that reason why I'm willing to help people for free is what you just said. We've all been there.
Mhm.
And so if I get to speak at a chamber event where most of them are not good marketers, they knew when they started the business to go to a chamber meeting or go to a networking event, but they have no sense of what it really takes to market and promote a successful business. I know I'm not going to reach everybody, but I might hit one or two people. And Dan had said this with the IBA program. You're going to find little needles in the hay when you go to these events. They're not going to be evident. They're going to pop out and they're going to reveal themselves.
Mhm.
And so when I share my message to the chamber, I'm the go-to chamber guy, even though I don't get much business from it anymore. But I speak for free because I want to affect just one or two people in that audience who come up to me and say, "Hey, I want to learn more. I'm excited what you said. I makes sense, and that's all that stuff." But the rest of them may flounder forever or end up going back to get a real job
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
just not right for them. An entrepreneur, a true entrepreneur, has fire inside their soul, and they'll do whatever it takes to succeed. Even if they fail for 10 years, they'll
Well,
still keep going.
I started as an entrepreneur when I was 15 mowing yards
Yep, ditto.
and made some money. Then my dad said, "Hey, you gotta go get a real job." And so I worked at a grocery store making $3.35 an hour. and which was a fraction of what I was making mowing. Um,
Right.
and then, my very first business was a video photography business where my partner skipped out and took half the equipment and left me with all the debt. And that taught me a lot of valuable lessons. It wasn't until 6 years later that I started the cleaning business. And after 3 years of that, almost failing until 1998 when I met Dan Kennedy out in Arizona. And that's when all the marketing changed for me. So we're going on 25 years of me learning all this marketing.
Right.
And in that 25 years, I've developed hopefully a reputation that people can trust me. They know
Right.
that, I'm going to help them. They
Yeah.
know that, hey, if I can't help them, they can at least read the books and learn something. But it takes time. It's not, hey, snap my fingers and, the marketing works. No, the whole thing is building trust, you know, growing that authority so people can, you know, hey, if I'm going to shell out all that kind of money, I need to know that Rob's going to deliver.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
You know, the if I may, just about the loyal customers, loyal clients. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and so I 5 years now, just about 5 years, and so I had some of the lowest points in my life while I was running that chapter. You know, and because of the relationship I had built with these people, they stood by me while I went through that lowest point before I got sober.
mhm,
And one of them, who is my oldest member from that GKIC chapter, said, "Craig's obviously going through something. We need to stand by him."
mhm,
Because they felt that I had given them so much in the way of just caring about them as human beings, as well as their business, that it was only right to stand by me when I was going through my tough times. And Dan Kennedy talks about this, about his days of alcoholism.
mhm.
But, the point being is that when you truly care about someone, you don't have to do it perfect. You just have to keep trying and keep intentionally
Right.
showing people you care, you know?
Yeah.
And so these are some of my best friends. Now, there's something to be said about making friends with your clients. You lose some authority. There are certainly some
Well,
people I can never charge because they just
right.
know too much about
Yeah.
me.
The
But
and my clients will give me testimonial over testimonial, and
exactly.
my philosophy has always been you're my friend first, my client second.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people in business will say, "Well, Rob, you can't mix that. You can't cross the line."
Right.
Well, you know what? As a marketer, as someone that they come to, I am more than a marketer. I am their therapist. I'm their friend. I'm the person that they want to cry to. I know more about them than most of their spouses do.
Yeah.
And I have to learn to put all that in perspective to help with the marketing, to make them more believable, to make them authority figure, to I'm not saying elevate them, but I want them to be able to relate better to their audience.
Right.
And if their audience can feel that they're more human, they're going to come to them and say, "Look, I want to give you more business."
Yeah.
And so, of course I'm going to be their friend. And a lot of times, as their friend, I've dropped their prices. I've during COVID, I could have said, "No, I'm not helping you. You can pay the regular rate." Most of them, I had to drop all their some of them I gave service to them for free. Some of them I dropped their price. I did what I needed to do for them
Right.
to stay in business. And yeah, it hurt me a little bit, but they're still my clients.
Right. Lifetime value. Like you said it in Dan Crick's interview. It's like, it costs more to acquire a new client than it does to care for an existing client.
Mhm.
And that's amen. There was that oldest member that I have that I mentioned. He one time was so much into shiny objects that he couldn't pay his mastermind fee for being part of mine, right? And I was mad at the time because I was struggling at the time. So, and I just revealed that to him last week. I said, I was mad because I was in the same boat, and I was just wanted you to be the savior. I wanted your money so it could help me get over a hump. But the point being is I forgave his $10,000 debt, and I said, "Just get out of jail free, right? Like, just please come back because it's not the same without you." There's other forms of value, Rob, right? It's like sometimes maybe you're not accepting money from them, but they're really great at what they do, and they could be a great influence over the other members. They have great things to say about me. They're my best testimonials. That's valuable in itself. So maybe the value isn't always directly in cash or money, but it could be the referrals they give. It could be the testimonials they give. It could be, them assisting you and making your life easier in what you do. And so, for anybody struggling out there, if you're watching, it's like, do what you got to do to succeed, but always take care of your clients. Always take care of the ones who stand by you because they're invaluable. Again, the relationship, the list you have and the relationship you have is number one piece of gold in every business, every successful business. And so you've got to nurture that like there's no tomorrow. Dear and valued friends. I learned that in the Mr. X book from Jay Abraham. Treat your clients like dear and valued friends.
Yeah, it's and the thing is, the more I treat them as a friend, the more referrals I get, the
Yes.
more testimonials I get, the more business I get. And as much as I wanted to call them names or say, hey, it's not fair, I did what I had to do to save them through COVID.
Yeah.
And as COVID was starting to turn around, their business was increasing, which meant that they wanted to come back and say, hey, Robert, we need, we're here's the money that we didn't pay you back then. So, yeah, but
Right.
the thing is, I recovered, they recovered, I'm making more money, and it all comes out in the wash.
Right.
But it's being mad at a client doesn't do you any good. So, you know,
Yeah. When I get in an argument at home, it's not fun to be in that space. It's kind of a dark cloud over our heads. And that goes the same with clients. It's like, why would you want that resentment between you two, right? It's just like, forget it. Let's start over. Just pay me when you can, pay me what you can, pay it forward. Sometimes, hey, when somebody comes to you and they need help, make sure you help them. I've done that millions of times. It's just the pay it forward philosophy is like, hey, I'm going to help you, but all I ask in return is that you do it for somebody else. You know,
mhm, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's. I know we've thrown a lot of stuff out there for everybody that's listening.
we're all over the place.
But as a typical entrepreneur with ADHD, we're always going to be all over the place.
Yeah,
I want you to understand that, but I also want you to understand that you're treating clients the right way, knowing when to accept a client, how to ask the right questions, charging enough for your service so that you're not the cheapest, uh, sometimes being the most expensive is the best, you
right,
know, but you know, you're always going to be 3 feet from gold. Knowing where that is going to help. And I've always had. I think there's a book somewhere, uh, and it teaches that all your treasures are basically in your backyard. And I can't
right.
think of the title off the top of my head, but here we are. We're all searching. We're all trying to get our business on the internet. We're all trying to, you know, and I do have clients all over the world, but I started out in my own backyard. I grew my business to the point where, you know, it needed to expand from that. And I think when you start in your own backyard, when you have local clients, it makes it a lot easier, to evaluate things better, faster, and grow. Um, I think when people, try to expand too quickly and not have that knowledge that they gained from the local clients, they don't know how to cope. So but yeah, and if you're listening, I know that there's probably not many GKIC. Uh, I think they all got rebranded, but there's not many of those types of events around. But find events that you can go to learn, to network, to learn marketing, and call me, call Craig. You know, Craig, I'm sure you have a website that you can send them to learn more about you.
Yeah, CraigValineMarketing.com is easy. It's just aware it's a place to start. There's a few videos there. It shares my philosophy. It's no frills. It's just basic information. But I'm on social media everywhere. You can just type my name in, Craig Valine, and you'll find me. You know, um, you know, I will take a call from somebody that is not qualified for me if it's going to help them, if they're willing. Willingness is really the key. It's like, are you willing to do what I'm going to tell you to do? Then I'm willing to help you. So if anybody who's listening to this wants to reach out, please feel free.
Yeah, and you have to be willing. You have to understand that your business needs help. You need help. Um, some of you need therapy, therapy beyond. But we can get into that in another video. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's marketing is not a hail mary. Marketing is not a silver bullet. There is not one thing that will help. You know everybody.
Yeah.
There are things that will help, and sometimes there are multiple things that you have to do. But a lot of times it's just those simple things that you need to change in your systems and how you deal with customers, and those will make the biggest impact and bring that uh, profitability back into your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, any last words before we go?
For regarding my philosophy and what I'm a specialist at is that, before you buy the next shiny object, take a look at what you already got and what you might not be doing. That, I look at most successful people and what do they do every day, and one of which is they have a book. One, two, they have a podcast. Number three, they do videos. You mentioned them before. If you want to be successful, follow what successful people do, and you might just be successful yourself.
Oh, and please go through your accounting, because I guarantee that there's a few shiny objects that you're paying for that you probably don't need. Uh, I,
Amen.
I've I've run into so many entrepreneurs. The last entrepreneur I was helping, they were spending over $1,500 a month just on shiny objects they didn't need, and so we helped them get rid of that, and they hired a part timer come in, and profitability is up. So look at your systems, look at the people that are helping you, hire the right people. You know, go to Greg's website and discover
Yeah.
more about your marketing. So until the next video, we'll see you guys later, and just learn something. Learn
Awesome.
something about marketing. Adios.